He was Shadow, the world's #1 assassin, a name that inspired pure terror. A legend who heard it all, and yet he died in a pathetic traffic accident. Talk about a lame ending, but when he opened his eyes, he'd been reborn. Now the useless young master of an incredibly rich and powerful family, lying there, on a massive king-sized bed inside a 5-star hotel, and beside him, a famous actress, her clothes looking intentionally torn and messy, the very next second the door gets kicked open, police cameras flashing like crazy, blinding him. A voice yells, "Arthur Vance, you're under arrest for felony assault." But faced with this pathetic little scheme, the corner of his mouth just twitches into an ice-cold smirk. Do these clowns actually think jail time is enough to take him down? They have no idea the sleeping lion has awakened. Starting right here, in this prison, he will drag the mastermind out. Step by step, he'll find them by their collar. This whole city metro will soon tremble. At his name, he, Darkwing, was once the greatest shadow operative on Earth. And yet a strange car accident was all it took to end his legend. Then he woke up. Turns out he had been reincarnated. He opened his eyes to a massive crystal chandelier, feeling the absurdly soft mattress underneath him. However, this body was so incredibly weak, he could barely even move a finger. Just then, a flood of memories slammed right into his brain. He was now Arthur Vance, the #1 spoiled brat in all of Metro City, arrogant, a total bully, and good for nothing but partying. But his family background, it was enough to make anyone sick with jealousy. His father, General Maximus Vance, the supreme commander of the Eastern Military District, commands an army of 1 million soldiers, and his mother, Victoria Vance, chairman of the Zenith Corporation, the single wealthiest woman in the entire empire. His older sister, Luna Vance, is a global superstar with billions of adoring fans. Even scarier are his 2 uncles. One controls the southern borders, while the other rules the western frontiers. Both of them are absolute warlords, and his grandfather is the only living founding father of the empire. If he stomps his foot, the whole nation practically shatters. What a jackpot. This is the ultimate winning ticket, but the original owner of this body was just a complete and utter piece of trash. Worse, his trained senses kicked in, immediately telling him something was off. This wasn't just alcohol in his system. It was a powerful paralytic drug. This was no accident at all. Some idiot had deliberately set him up. His gaze turned colder than ice. The assassin's instincts were now fully awake. Who was it? Brad Stursling, the jealous rich kid, or some celebrity whose fame Arthur had overshadowed? While his mind was racing at top speed, the blanket beside him began to stir. He slowly turned his head. A woman with a knockout figure was huddled right there under the covers. Her pale shoulders were covered in suggestive bite marks. Her eyelashes fluttered. She was about to wake up. In his old world of assassins, women and wine were the exact same, tools for pleasure or deadly weapons. And the woman right here in front of him was the knife being plunged into his back. His mind instantly laid out the entire predictable script. She screams, she cries. Claims he assaulted her. Reporters storm the room, cameras flash, and the perfect frame-up is complete. The Vance family's reputation would be dragged through the mud. Too bad for them. This Arthur Vance was not the same fool he was yesterday, and speak of the devil. The woman on the bed, Stella Fox, slowly opened her eyes. Seeing him, she immediately feigned shock, then seamlessly switched into a well-rehearsed look of absolute terror. She opened her mouth, ready to let out a scream that could shatter glass. But in that exact millisecond, before she could scream, a hand clamped over her mouth with lightning speed. Stella's pupils shrank in fear. Her eyes locked with his. His gaze was cold, indifferent, like an abyss ready to swallow all of creation. Was this really the idiot Vance? He slowly leaned in, a bloodthirsty smile pulling at his lips as he whispered, "Hold that scream. If you make a single sound, you and your entire family are finished. Think carefully before you make a sound. I'll give you 3 seconds." And just like that, he let go. Stella's entire body froze stiff, the scream dying in her throat, but right at that critical moment, bang. The room door was kicked open from the outside. A swarm of reporters and police officers flooded into the room like a tidal wave. Camera flashes exploded like a thunderstorm. Seeing her saviors, Stella's acting instincts took over. She sprang up from the bed. Pulling the blanket over herself, pointed at Vance and shrieked with all her might, "Help, he assaulted me." That scream was the spark. The room absolutely exploded. Click, click, click. Reporters swarmed him. "Mr. Vance, is this accusation true? Do you have anything to say?" A chaotic storm of questions tried to bury him alive. Amidst the chaos, a crisp, cold female voice cut through. "Step aside, police business." The crowd parted. A female officer in uniform, her face beautiful but sharp as ice, walked in. It was Detective K.H. Lowe Frost, captain of the Major Crimes Unit. Her eyes swept over the massive bed. Taking in the crying Stella and a half-dressed Vance, disgust flashed in her eyes, this infamous trash of the Empire again. K.H. Lowe held up her badge, her voice completely devoid of warmth. "Arthur Vance, we received a report suspecting you of felony assault. Get dressed and come with us to the station immediately." Her words echoed clearly through the reporters' microphones. The scene erupted once again. The title of Metro City's #1 playboy was officially destroyed. Arrested in public for assaulting a famous starlet, this was the hottest news in a decade. For the next month, every camera lens would be locked onto him, desperately trying to capture even a hint of panic on his face. Too bad for them, they were going to be disappointed. Facing a situation that would socially kill anyone else. His face remained as calm as a still lake. It was as if this whole dramatic play had absolutely nothing to do with him. He slowly grabbed the bedsheet, wrapped it around his waist, and finally lifted his gaze to truly look at the female cop at the door. His eyes were terrifyingly calm. His brain was analyzing everything at maximum capacity. Out of all these reporters, who was here for the scoop and who were the planted pawns? Who was here for justice and who was here for the show? Especially this cop, her timing was just too perfect, too deliberate. Finally, his gaze landed back on the sobbing Stella. Her performance could teach a masterclass at the Film Academy. Too bad her body language was so stiff, so unnatural. The genuine fear hidden deep in her eyes completely gave her away. What a sloppy, amateur performance. A mocking smile slowly crept onto his lips. That one smile made everyone in the room freeze. What on earth is he smiling at? His life is a dumpster fire, and he's smiling. K.H. Lowe's face went absolutely glacial. She despised arrogant rich kids who abused their power. She barked out, "What are you laughing at, Arthur? Get dressed and come with us," but he couldn't have cared less. He slowly rose from the bed, completely ignoring the countless camera lenses. His elegant, unhurried demeanor was as if he were simply strolling through his own private garden. This deep-seated grace was completely at odds with his playboy reputation. He slowly put on his pants, turned to K.H. Lowe, and spread his hands. "Let's go, officer." He even tilted his chin, glancing at the handcuffs on her belt. "Do we need those accessories?" His light-hearted tone completely ignited K.H. Lowe's rage. She ordered, "Cuff him, take him away." Click. The cold metal locked around his wrists. The reporters went into a frenzy, their cameras flashing at this historic moment. 2 officers flanked him, marching him out of the room. But as he passed the edge of the bed where Stella sat, his footsteps abruptly stopped. The officer behind him shoved him hard, growling, "Keep moving." He acted like he didn't hear a thing. He tilted his head slightly, leaning forward under the barrage of flashes. His lips were almost touching Stella's ear. He used a voice only the 2 of them could hear, whispering like a demon. "Your scream was slightly better than your acting." Police sirens tore through the Metro City night. Inside the cruiser, the 2 cops up front were whispering about the man in the back. "SHH, look, he's sleeping like a baby. The nerve on this guy," the older driver scoffed. "These untouchable elites, framed or not. Assaulting an actress is nothing to them. One phone call from his parents, and the chief will be apologizing to him tomorrow. The young cop ground his teeth. Damn it all. Scum like this should be locked away forever, but they had no idea the man in the back seat wasn't sleeping at all. As a former shadow, staying alert in strange environments was instinct. Right now, his brain was dissecting the trap piece by piece. First up, the timing. The cops and media appeared perfectly synced with the woman's scream. This proved there were at least two groups waiting outside, timing the signal. This was a premeditated live stream event. Second, the charge, a felony designed to instantly destroy a public figure's reputation, with witnesses and evidence manipulating public opinion. Even if he jumped into the holy river, he couldn't wash this clean. A fatal strike. Third, the media. Not just one or two outlets, but a whole fleet. The mastermind had massive resources and had mastered psychological warfare. They didn't need the truth. They just needed the predator label superglued to his forehead. Timing, charges, public opinion, a tight three-hit combo. The trap was almost perfect. Shame the execution was so amateurish. In the eyes of a king of the underworld like him, this was a toddler's scribble full of plot holes. True Apex players eliminate targets without a single trace. This setup was too low class, and that revealed the mastermind's fatal flaw. They were desperate, absolutely desperate to stomp him to death instantly. The suspect list shrank drastically. It had to be a newly risen family in Metro City, eager to steal the top spot. Just then, a name flashed from the depths of his memory like a lightning bolt: Brad Sterling. The heir to the Sterling family, the city's newest money. In the dark, a cold smile formed. A smirk forms. It's him, this guy Brad, always trying to compete with Arthur. And every time, Arthur crushed him with pure, arrogant wealth. Just last week, they bid on a watch. Brad's bid hit $30 million. Arthur casually dropped $1 billion, then tossed the watch. He gave it to a random date like it was nothing. Brad's face that night, pure venom. Brad had the motive, the resources, an ambitious heir who loved to use cheap tactics. He fit the profile perfectly, so it was him. In that case, the rest would be easy. The police car slowed, arriving at the Metro City precinct, as Arthur stepped out of the car. An officer gave him a shove, but before he could even get his balance, he saw someone waiting. A middle-aged man was standing on the steps, uniform, beer belly, and a face that screamed bootlicker. His eyes zeroed in on Arthur, filled with undisguised gloating. Arthur's memory instantly pulled up his file: Deputy Chief Louis Miller. The Sterling family's biggest puppet on the force. Seeing Louis, Arthur just smiled. He met the man's smug gaze, walking up the steps with that same gentle smile, as if he were some VIP guest, not a suspect at all. He stopped right in front of the man. Taking the high ground, he spoke slowly. "Deputy Chief Miller, it seems my case has you quite excited, hasn't it?" The interrogation room was freezing, oppressive. Click, a desk lamp flicked on. The blinding beam shot right at his face. It was a classic psychological pressure tactic. Too bad for them it wasn't working. In fact, he comfortably narrowed his eyes, like he was sunbathing on a private beach. Just then the door swung open. In walked Detective K.H. Frost. She radiated an icy aura that pushed everyone away, slamming a file onto the table. She spoke coldly. Name: Arthur Vance, age 22. Occupation: his lips smirked. Occupation: spoiled playboy. K.H. was instantly triggered. Arthur. This is an interrogation room. Fix your attitude. Apologize. Force of habit. K.H. took a deep breath. Tell me everything that happened tonight. But Arthur leaned back in his chair, looking completely at ease. He didn't even try to defend himself. He just looked at her, amused. "Officer, before I answer, can I ask you a few questions?" K.H. frowned. "I am the one interrogating you." Arthur smiled. "Don't be nervous. I just want to understand police procedures." And without waiting for her refusal, he fired the first shot. "From the moment you got the dispatch to the moment you kicked down the door, how long did that take?" K.H.'s pupils contracted. He continued, "At most 10 minutes. Your response time is incredible." It's almost godlike. Anyone would think you were already waiting downstairs, just listening for a glass to drop as the signal. His blatant sarcasm made K.H. Lowe's face turn ugly, and why? Because he was right. They got a tip-off from the true mastermind. They were waiting downstairs, a massive procedural flaw, but he didn't give her any time. To think, firing his second shot, and those dozens of reporters with heavy cameras. Are they part of your off-the-book staff, or has the precinct invented some new media-supervised law enforcement? K.H. Lowe choked, speechless. This question was even more venomous than the first, cops busting into a room, with reporters leading the charge. If word got out, the precinct would be a total joke. Time for the final shot. He leaned forward slightly, his eyes piercing right through her soul. Officer, you are an experienced detective in any assault case. The most crucial thing is physical evidence. You have your witness, but you forgot the basics. From the moment you walked in, no medical exam, no DNA samples. Cuffed. And he just chuckled softly, a sound that grated on her nerves. He stared dead into her eyes. Tell me, did you all come here to solve a case or to shoot a movie? 3 questions, like heavy hammer blows. They smashed into K.H. Lowe's heart, shattering her professional pride into pieces. The room fell dead silent. She stared at him, her chest heaving violently. She had never met a suspect like this one. He wasn't being interrogated. No, he was the one passing judgment on this whole ridiculous charade of an arrest. How could a rumored piece of trash exert such terrifying pressure on her? After a long moment, K.H. Lowe slowly turned off the desk lamp and closed the file. She crossed her hands, changing her tactics. You don't seem worried at all. The playful smile vanished from his face, replaced by a calm that sent shivers down her spine. He looked at her and replied flatly, why should I be worried? The ones losing sleep right now should be the directors of this little play. Eastern Military District, Metro City. The night was pitch black. But inside the Supreme Commander's office, this steel fortress was blazing with light. Secretary Smith stood outside, holding an encrypted intelligence report. He waited before the mahogany door for 3 full minutes, simply too scared to knock. Because behind that door was the Empire's youngest general, Maximus Vance. A legend who had walked out of mountains of corpses and entire seas of blood. And the report in Smith's hand was enough to ignite this god of war's fury. Finally, military instinct won out over fear. Smith knocked, a single word answered. Enter, the voice carried unquestionable authority. Smith walked inside. Under a lamp, a towering figure was leaning over a military map. His blood-soaked aura was sharper than any blade. What is it? Maximus asked. He didn't look up, his tone flat. Smith saluted sharply, offering the file. His voice was dry. Commander, urgent intelligence from Metro City. Maximus's gaze, sharp as daggers, finally locked onto Smith. He took the file. The office fell into a deathly silence as Smith watched from the corner of his eye. The moment Maximus read the first line, his brows knitted together. The next second, the words suspected of felony assault, taken by police, hit his eyes. His entire body went rigid. An utterly terrifying, murderous aura erupted. Smith felt like he was being stared down by some primordial beast. His blood ran cold, his legs turning to jelly. That bastard, a roar of pure rage. The thunderous sound echoed as his fist punched clean through the century-old desk. Splinters flew everywhere. The report was crumpled instantly into a ball. His reputation, the Vance family's honor, completely dragged through the mud. Maximus shot to his feet, pacing the room like a fully enraged lion. He had fought for half his life, achieving glorious merits, proud to his very core. Only to have spawned such a useless son. Assault, that crossed the line. It broke the Empire's laws. A fire of rage burned wildly in his chest. He wanted to fly to Metro City right then and shoot his ungrateful son himself. But just as his fury peaked, his bloodshot, tiger-like eyes twitched. He caught sight of the calligraphy hanging on the wall, strict discipline, lead by example. Those words instantly suppressed the volcano that was just about to erupt inside him. Years in the military had forged his superhuman self-control. Maximus slowly calmed. He took a deep breath, the red fading from his eyes, replaced by an abyssal cold. A cold calculation. He couldn't act on emotion as the supreme commander. He absolutely could not use military power to interfere with justice, the political fallout. It would be a mountain. With that thought, he slumped back down, his straight posture gone. His back now showed only helplessness and exhaustion. The Iron General was gone. In his place was just a father, dealing with a deeply disappointing son. Smith watched as his commander's voice became calm, but somehow even more terrifying. The single word hung in the air, "Leave." Smith practically fled the room. Now alone in the vast office, Maximus finally reached for the encrypted red phone. He dialed the one number he never wanted to call for something like this. The line connected. A crisp, almost lazy female voice answered. "Max, is something wrong at the base?" Hearing her voice, a bitter look crossed the tough general's face. "Victoria, it's me. It's about our family." He paused, forcing his tone to be calm. He relayed the events. "That idiot son of ours got arrested in Metro City. He's been accused of assaulting an actress." On the other end, dead silence. For more than 10 seconds, nothing. Maximus could easily imagine her expression turning to ice. The usually breezy business empress was gone. "I understand, it's inconvenient." Victoria's voice returned, the laziness completely vanished, replaced by a harsh frost. It was a bone-chilling cold. "Leave this to me." Maximus paused, his voice heavy. "You've spoiled him since he was a kid. If this is true, nobody can protect him. Our family cannot afford this kind of disgrace." "I know," just as Maximus was about to hang up. His fatherly instinct took over. He leaned into the phone, his voice dropping low. Suppressing an endless killing intent, word by word. "Victoria, investigate exactly. Who is playing games in the shadows? My son, even if he is a worthless piece of scrap, is not someone for outsiders to trample on." Click, the call was over. Victoria Vance remained perfectly still, phone in hand. Her office was perched at the very peak. The highest point in all of Metro City, the top floor of the Zenith Corporation. Outside the window, the city lights below glittered like a galaxy. But right now, the last trace of warmth on the Empress's face had completely vanished. It was replaced by a freezing tundra. Her husband's final words echoed in her ears. "My son, Arthur, I can scold him, I can beat him, I can be disappointed in him. To my very bones, but do others have that right?" She gently placed the phone down. That simple action was a switch that would make her entire commercial empire tremble. Victoria slowly turned around, her phoenix eyes now holding zero emotion. Only a cold gaze looking down on mortals, like a glacier, asleep for a decade. And now it was quietly awakening. She didn't scream, she simply extended one slender finger. She pressed the red button on her desk, a button she never, ever used on a normal day. A second later, her chief secretary rushed in, bowing so low it was almost worship. The woman didn't dare to breathe too loudly, because she could feel the change. The chairman today was a peerless divine sword, finally pulled from its sheath. Victoria never looked at her. Her gaze was fixed on the city outside. Her voice was light. Deceptively light, but it carried an authority that could pierce bone. "Call Harvey Strong." The secretary instantly connected to the apex of the empire's entire legal world. 10 seconds later, a steady male voice came through the speaker, full of absolute respect. "Mrs. Vance," Victoria spoke slowly, each word a blade. "Harvey. Model, her son Arthur, was at the city precinct, facing an assault charge. The orders were simple: get him out within 24 hours, untouched." Without a single hesitation, the voice on the other end confirmed, "Understood." Then came the second command: "Call Hawkeye." The secretary's blood ran cold. Hawkeye, the intelligence division, answering only to Zenith's chairman. They knew everything about everyone. This unit hadn't been activated in 5 years. The line connected. A robotic voice announced, "Hawkeye awaits your command." Victoria's tone became ice. The actress involved, Stella Fox. The cops on the case, K.H. Lowe Frost and Lewis Miller. You have 1 hour. I want every file on them, from their birth certificates to last night's dinner. On my desk, everyone they know, every single clue. Miss Nothing, order received. The call ended, sharp and final. And with just 2 phone calls, a monster wave began to form in Metro City. The colossal machine that was Zenith instantly roared to life. At a single word from the Empress, elite legal teams descended on the precinct. They moved like sharks that had just smelled blood in the water. The PR department went on high alert, preparing for the inevitable media firestorm. Countless financial titans quietly stirred, awaiting their Empress's next move. The secretary could barely breathe, standing frozen in place. She'd been with her for 10 years. Only once a decade ago had she seen Victoria like this. It was when a foreign firm tried to take over Zenith. That time, a Wall Street shark went bankrupt overnight and took a dive off a skyscraper. So who was foolish enough to wake the sleeping Empress this time? Victoria walked to the window, a lone figure who commanded the entire world. She gazed down at the city lights like a master surveying her chessboard. Without turning, her voice cut through the silence. Notify the board. All business with the Sterling Group is suspended, effective immediately. Meanwhile, across the world in Rome, a woman stood under the spotlight. She was a world of her own, a goddess made flesh. A beauty so stunning it could make flowers wilt in shame. Her very presence could shake a man's soul to its core. This was Luna Vance, the only actress to ever win the Grand Slam. A true living legend with over 3 billion fans worldwide. The moment the director yelled cut, the sorrow on Luna's face vanished instantly. Her assistant rushed over with a coat and warm water. Director James approached, showering her with praise for her god-tier acting. But Luna just gave a polite nod. Her ice-cold brand was legendary. She headed for her break room, but her manager, Mary, intercepted her. Mary's face was pale, twisted with a panic she'd never shown before. Luna, she managed to say, her voice cracking. Luna slowly opened her eyes. A flicker of confusion in her gaze. This was Mary, her rock for 10 years. Mary wouldn't flinch if a mountain collapsed right in front of her. What happened? Mary took a shaky breath and showed her the phone. It was breaking news from the Empire's largest media outlet. The bold, black headline hit her like a dagger. Playboy Arthur Vance arrested on suspicion of assaulting the starlet Stella Fox, and just like that, Luna's mind went blank. It was like a bomb had just gone off inside her head as the phone slipped from her fingers. Smack, it hit the ground. Everyone nearby turned to look, totally confused. Why would the always composed goddess suddenly lose her cool? Mary's heart just sank. It was over. Her absolute worst fear had just happened. Arthur was Luna's one weakness. Her reverse scale. The world saw Luna as an ice queen, but only Mary knew the truth. Deep down, she was a fiercely protective demon of a sister. For a moment, time stopped. For 3 seconds, everything froze. Then Luna slowly bent down to pick up the phone. When she looked back up, every single emotion had been wiped clean from her face. All that remained was a freezing chill that sent a shiver down even Mary's spine. If she was an iceberg before, she was now a 10,000-foot abyss beneath the ice. Cold enough to freeze life itself, her voice was quiet but as unbending as iron. She said he was an idiot, a playboy and arrogant, but he was not scum. She didn't need a single piece of evidence. Her belief in him was unconditional. Someone was framing him. Pure killing intent flashed in Luna's eyes. She didn't panic. She didn't cry, now watch. She pulled out her private phone, completely calm and decisive. That absolute control shook Mary. This was the true face of the Vance family. Her very first call went to the Empire's media mogul, Chairman Richard Clark. A hearty laugh came from the other end, surprised to hear from Luna during her busy schedule. But Luna wasn't there for small talk. She asked him if he'd seen the news. The news about her brother. Her command was simple: suppress it. This wasn't a request. Richard paused, then admitted this was no small matter he could easily handle. The scene, the witnesses, the evidence, it was all there. He said they couldn't bury it. But Luna's voice just grew colder. I said suppress it, all news portals, all of it. Social media, short video platforms, everything. Within 10 minutes, I want it all gone. Not a single negative story related to my brother. She knew he understood perfectly well. In their industry, there is absolutely nothing that money and power cannot suppress. And he had the power to do it. Silence. Richard realized Luna was different today. She carried an aura he had only ever felt from her own father. He sighed and gave in. He'd help, calling it a favor paid back to her dad, a crisp thank you. Then Luna hung up. Immediately, she made a second call, then a third and a fourth. Every call was to a key player in media, public relations, and even politics. And get this, she didn't use her family's name. She relied solely on the name Luna Vance. And the terrifying network she built in 10 years as a top actress. The calls finished. She stood up abruptly. Mary, tell director James I am not filming anything else. Mary gasped, thinking Luna had finally lost her mind. This was James's movie. The penalty for breaking the contract was astronomical, not to mention her reputation. But Luna just sneered and cut her off right there. Her brother was being destroyed. What did she care about some fake reputation when he was about to be stomped into the mud? She spoke with absolute force. I, Luna Vance, am standing here not because of a handout, but because I climbed this high all by myself. I did it once, and I can do it again. Even if it meant starting completely from scratch tomorrow, she wasn't afraid. But I only have one brother. Her powerful declaration left Mary stunned into silence. Just at that moment, director James noticed something was wrong and came striding over. He asked what was going on, saying she looked terrible. Luna met his gaze, ready to speak. With perfect calm, she spoke. I'm so sorry, Director James. An urgent family matter has come up. I have to return home immediately. I'm afraid I cannot continue the shoots. Director James's face contorted. What are you saying? Do you even realize? What you're saying, the entire crew, hundreds of people, are waiting for you. If you leave now, that's a breach of contract. But faced with the international director's towering rage, Luna just looked back at him, completely unfazed. In the next second, she simply turned and walked out, already dialing her private assistant. She completely ignored James's furious roars and Mary's anxious calls behind her. Her voice was absolute, the unquestionable command of a queen. Book me the earliest private jet home. Tell the director we are breaking the contract. I'll pay whatever the penalty is. My brother is in trouble. I must go back immediately. Meanwhile, he had just put on his prison uniform. His bespoke suit, worth tens of thousands of dollars, was casually tossed onto the floor like a piece of trash. A guard poked his chest with a baton. His face full of smug satisfaction. Young Master Vance, Deputy Chief Miller, personally told us to take extra good asterisk care of you. He dragged out the word care with a sneer. The surrounding guards exploded with laughter. You could see their intent plain as day. They wanted to completely crush his spirit, break his arrogant bones, but faced with this blatant threat, his face showed no reaction at all. He even nodded politely. Then I'll be in your hands. His calm demeanor completely enraged the guard, a useless rich kid at rock bottom. Still daring to put on a tough act in front of him, he pointed his baton. His voice ice cold. Throw him into Block C, Cell 303, the smiles on the other guards' faces turned deeply sinister. Block C, that was the place reserved for the worst of the worst. Murderers, robbers, and cartel bosses, every one of them with blood staining their hands. And Cell 303 was the infamous Diablo cell, filled with psychopaths and desperate men. Throwing a soft, pampered rich kid like him into that wolf den, he wouldn't survive a single night. Just like that, he was shoved into a gloomy hallway, eyes as venomous as snakes glared out at him from behind cold iron bars. This was the true purgatory of human nature. Yet, walking down this path to hell, his heart was as calm as a dead lake. He even felt a flicker of nostalgia. Years ago, as the assassin King Shadow, he had carved his way out of a Middle Eastern prisoner of war camp. Compared to that, this place was practically a spa. His eyes instantly shifted, becoming a high-precision radar. Hallway length, number of cameras, blind spots, shift change timings. All the data flooded his brain, instantly generating 3 separate escape plans. The guard finally stopped in front of a heavy iron door. A chilling sign hung on it. C303, clang, the door swung open. A foul, oppressive smell rushed out. The guard shoved him hard. Enjoy your new home, young master. Slam. The heavy door shut, completely sealing him off from the outside world. The cell fell dead silent. Over a dozen pairs of eyes stabbed into him like poisoned knives. The excited, cruel gaze of beasts that have just spotted their prey. He swept his expressionless eyes around the room. Barely 300 square feet, it was packed with 15 massive muscular inmates, covered in scars, aggressive tattoos, and savage expressions. Some were playing cards, others doing push-ups. The moment he walked in, they all stopped. The air grew suffocating. This was the customary hazing. Just then, a bald guy on the deepest bunk slowly sat up. He was 6'3", muscles bulging, a black dragon tattooed across his shoulders, making him look absolutely ferocious. This was the boss of the Diablo cell. It's Baldy Craig. He hops down barefoot, walking slowly toward the new arrival. His lackeys fall in behind, forming a semicircle and blocking his only retreat. Craig stops right in front of him, his massive size creating immense pressure. He circles the kid like a bear, his eyes full of raw, invasive intent. He smacks his lips, making a loud clicking sound, then stops. He reaches out a hand as big as a fan, lightly slapping the boy's cheek again and again. Pure humiliation. He bares his yellow teeth, sneering with every word. Kid, I heard you're some big shot young master. You know the rules here. Suddenly, he roars. First, get on your knees and kowtow to your grandpa. The cell erupts. Haha, Craig told you to kneel. Are you deaf? Start banging your head so we can hear it. They all stare with sick anticipation, waiting for him to break down and beg for mercy. Crushing a man's dignity is their greatest joy. Too bad he's about to disappoint them. Facing these wolves, his face remains completely calm. No fear, no anger, as cold as 10,000-year-old ice. As if this dozen hardened criminals in front of him were nothing more than stray mutts. His extreme calm makes their laughter die down. They realize something is seriously wrong. A bizarre, bone-chilling aura radiates from the new kid. This one's spooky. The smile on Craig's face stiffens. The way this kid looks at him, like a dead man, is the ultimate provocation. Hey kid, I'm talking to you, you deaf. His patience finally runs out. A vicious light flashes in his eyes. The hand slapping the boy's face is suddenly pulled back. I said kneel. His massive hand swings violently toward his face, carrying the sound of the wind. He's using his full force. Everyone watches, waiting to see a face beaten to a pulp. But a millisecond before that hand connects, he moves. Fast, unbelievably fast, just a blur in their retinas. No one saw how he moved, let alone how he struck back. They only saw the end result. The hand swinging at him stops dead. 1 single inch from his face, blocked by another hand, a slender, almost elegant hand. No one saw it appear, but it's now locked onto Craig's wrist like a steel vise. Craig's smile freezes, replaced by utter shock. He instinctively tries to pull back, but his terrifying strength, the kind that can bend iron bars, can't make that hand budge a single millimeter. It's welded to his wrist. How is this possible? While his brain short-circuits, the kid slowly raises his other hand and casually dusts an invisible speck off his shoulder. He looks up, his calm eyes finally show a trace of emotion. Not anger, not killing intent, just pure disgust, the kind reserved for noisy trash. Too loud, he says softly. As the words fall, the hand locking Craig's wrist simply twists outward. And folds, crack, a crisp sound of bone-breaking echoes through the entire cell. It makes everyone's scalp tingle. Next comes a raw scream from Craig's throat, like a pig being slaughtered. Everyone's eyes bulge. Craig's thick right arm is twisted at an angle that defies human anatomy. White bone pierces through the skin, exposed to the air. In just one move, not even a real move, the king of Cell 303, who could supposedly kill a bull with one punch, has his prized arm crippled. Everyone is dumbfounded, their minds completely blank. But he wasn't done with him yet. He lifts his leg and casually kicks Craig in the chest, a muffled thud. His 200-pound body flies backward like a broken sack. The two goons right behind him can't dodge in time and are knocked clean to the ground. The cell is absolute chaos. But the show wasn't over. He walked at a leisurely pace to the guy, writhing in agony on the floor. Craig. Under the horrified eyes of everyone, he slowly raised his foot and brought it down, stomping right onto Craig's distorted, agonizing face. He applied a little pressure. Craig's scream stopped, turning into muffled, pained grunts. The cell fell into a deathly silence again. The inmates who were howling a minute ago were frozen in place like statues. The gloating vanished, replaced by a deep fear rising from the depths of their souls. A demon, this guy wasn't just some pretty boy. He was a monster in human skin. His foot still rested on Craig's face. He slowly looked up. His glacial gaze swept over every single person in the room. Finally, his voice, calm enough to make a heart stop, drifted out. Now, who wants to explain the rules to me again? In that moment, the inmates were like chickens grabbed by the neck. Pale-faced, they didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Their eyes were locked onto the young man, casually resting a foot on their former boss's head. He wasn't built like a tank, but radiated the terrifying aura of a dark god. Fear, pure primal fear. They were killers, sure, but only now did they understand true terror. What this man exuded wasn't just viciousness or brutality. It was an absolute and supreme disregard for all life. In his eyes, they were simply ants. If he wanted to crush them, he would, without a single ripple of emotion, and that was what was truly terrifying. However, in that dead silence, there's always one or two idiots blinded by pure rage. Damn it, you touched Boss Craig, brothers, get him. Kill this pretty boy. The silence broke. Two lackeys knocked down earlier scrambled to their feet. A guy nicknamed Mad Dog, eyes red, grabbed a heavy, dirty boot and swung it straight at the back of his head. Another guy, Scarface, roared, throwing a punch at his ribs. 3 or 4 others lunged from every direction. In their minds, no matter how good this kid was, he was all alone. 2 fists can't block 4 hands. If they all rushed him, they could crush him with sheer numbers. Too bad for them, they were tragically wrong. Facing the mob, his face didn't even ripple. His foot on Craig never moved an inch. The moment Mad Dog's boot was about to smash his skull, he moved. His body shifted like a phantom, leaning slightly. Just like that, he avoided a lethal blow. The next second, his right arm struck backward like a viper. His elbow became the sharpest weapon, violently smashing right into Mad Dog's chest. Crack, another sickening crunch. Mad Dog's ribs caved right in. He flew backward, spitting a massive arc of blood in midair. At the same time, Scarface's fist arrived. But it was as if he had eyes in the back of his head. He didn't even turn. His left hand formed a knife edge and casually slashed backward. Smack, a crisp sound. The hand knife hit Scarface's wrist perfectly. He felt agonizing pain, his heavy punch losing all its power. But it didn't end there. His left hand slid up, 5 fingers spreading wide, grabbing his panicked face. He slammed it down, then violently hurled the man into the concrete wall. Thud, Scarface didn't even get to grunt. His eyes rolled back and he slid down like a wet noodle, dead or alive, who knows. In a fraction of a second, 2 desperate criminals were critically injured. One knocked out cold, and his feet hadn't moved half a step from their original spot. What kind of monster is this? The remaining inmates froze mid-lunge model, they froze solid. Their charge stopped dead, sending them tripping over themselves, tumbling into a pathetic pile. They stared at him like he was death itself, a grim reaper clawing its way out of hell. The trash taken care of, he slowly turned. His ice-cold gaze swept over the groaning men on the floor. And then it landed on the other inmates, frozen in place. Finally, he lifted his foot, removing it from Craig's face. This whole display wasn't just about raw power. It was about terrifying, surgical control. In a single breath, he crippled 5 men, shattering bones, snapping tendons. Every single one of them lost the ability to fight. And yet, not a single one died. He had perfectly missed every vital point on their bodies. That level of control, it broke them completely. Thud, then another. One by one, the remaining dozen inmates collapsed. It was like their spines had been ripped out, all the strength just vanished from their legs. They dropped to their knees, heads bowed low. Shaking like leaves in the wind, not daring to even look up at him. Submission. Total soul-deep submission, and in that instant, it was clear he was the new king. Of cell 303, but as he looked down at this flock of kneeling sheep, a flicker of pure boredom crossed his eyes. He didn't even give them a second glance. Instead, he adjusted his slightly wrinkled uniform and began to walk calmly. He headed for a scrawny inmate huddled in the corner, shaking like a leaf. This guy looked like the weakest one here. A warm, disarming smile bloomed on our main character's face. He reached out, gently patting the man's rigid shoulder. The guy looked absolutely terrified, like he was about to piss himself. Our hero just smiled and asked softly, "Hey man, got a phone, let me borrow it." The voice was gentle, but the scrawny guy felt death's scythe pressed right to his neck. His teeth chattered uncontrollably, unable to form a single word. The smile didn't fade, but his eyes narrowed just a bit. That tiny movement alone made the inmate feel an ice-cold hand crushing his heart. Survival instinct took over. The man shot up from the floor and frantically dug into his grimy pants, pulling out an object that was wrapped in a small plastic bag. He wiped it desperately on his sleeve and then offered it up with trembling hands like a sacred tribute. It was an old Nokia Mini, a complete fossil. Our main character didn't even look at him, just took the phone and turned it on. That classic startup sound echoed through the deathly silent cell, eerily loud. The kneeling criminals had already backed into the corners, trying to shrink away like frightened birds, not daring to breathe too loudly. The crippled Scarface clamped a hand over his mouth, trying not to make a sound. Baldy Craig, meanwhile, was fighting the blinding pain from his broken arm, forcing himself to stay conscious. Because they all knew, angering this new king meant a fate far worse than death. But he paid them no mind at all. He walked to the camera's biggest blind spot, turning his back to everyone in the room. His fingers flew across the tiny keypad. He didn't bother with contacts. Instead, he typed in a 32-digit number. An encrypted number, one that was burned deep into his very soul. It was the top-level emergency line for the Shadow Guild. Only a person with the codename Shadow even had the clearance to make the call. 10 seconds later, it connected. Dead silence. From the other end, they were waiting for the one-of-a-kind identification code. His lips parted. Using a very specific vocal trick, he produced a perfect Morse code. A sequence of 13 different audio frequencies. Translated, it meant just one word. Monarch silence for 3 seconds. Then, an emotionless robotic voice spoke. Authentication successful. Nightingale system activated. My lord, please issue your command. Hearing that familiar voice, a complex emotion flashed across his ancient eyes. The Nightingale system was the most powerful intelligence network on the planet. An organization built by his own hands. He never expected to reboot his empire this way. He didn't waste time, lowering his voice until it was devoid of all emotion. I am Shadow. Initiate Nightingale protocol. Investigate someone for me. Brad Sterling in Metro City. This time, he wasn't using the Vance family's power. That belonged to Arthur Vance. He was the monarch shadow of the Shadow Guild. He was going to use his past life's power to crush this new life's annoyances. The command was issued, but the Nightingale AI didn't respond immediately. A bizarre silence fell over the earpiece. Just as he thought the system had crashed, the cold electronic voice started to tremble, distorting violently, until it finally morphed into a man's voice, stuttering with pure shock and wild joy. Lord, is it really you, my lord? The voice was fanatical, like a lost believer hearing their God after years of wandering. My lord, you're alive. Hearing that familiar voice, his lips curled into a smirk. Ghost. This was the world's #1 hacker, the admin of the Nightingale system. Ghost, it's me, boss, it's me. The whole world thought you were. He cut him off flatly. The old shadow is dead, his gaze pierced through the concrete walls, looking at the starry sky outside. The man breathing now is named Arthur Vance. Meanwhile, at the King Club, Metro City's most luxurious underground casino. In the VIP section, a large man was enjoying himself like an emperor, surrounded by beauties and his lackeys. Kevin, or Big Kev King. People on the scene respectfully called him Fatty King. But no one dared underestimate this fat man, because his family controlled Metro City's entire criminal underworld. He was also Arthur's only diehard friend. Right as Big Kev was partying, a special satellite phone buzzed in his pocket. Seeing the caller ID, his smile froze solid. Less than 5 people had this number, and they only called in absolute emergencies. He waved the women away. In an instant, the massive VIP area was empty, replaced by a sharp intensity completely unsuited to his appearance. He answered, his subordinate's panicked voice came through. Boss, bad news, huge news. Big Kev's voice was eerily calm, the silence before a storm. Arthur. What happened to Arthur? Arthur was framed, arrested by the cops for assault. The news is about to explode. Hearing this, a terrifying, murderous glare shot from Big Kev's squinted eyes. He said nothing, but the temperature around him plummeted. It felt like it dropped to freezing. This massive, usually laughing man suddenly radiated a physical aura of death. I know, he said, then hung up. He slowly stood up. His massive body was now a volcano on the verge of erupting. He pulled out another phone and started making calls. His voice wasn't loud, but every command made Metro City tremble. Wake all the brothers up. Find a girl named Stella Fox. I don't care if you have to steal or rob. I want her location in 1 hour. Old 9, use all your connections. Look into the precinct. Who led the teams? Who gave the order? That Deputy Chief Miller. I want to know everything. Rat, I've got a job for you. Start digging. Dig up all the dirt on Stella Fox and her entire circle. Money is no object. I want her and the mastermind behind this to learn what ruin really means. Call after call. Command after command. A massive, invisible net fell over Metro City in an instant. The entire underworld erupted at Big Kev's command. He sat back down. He knew Arthur had his pride. He would never stoop so low. This was a setup, a vicious trap aimed directly at his best friend. Thinking of Arthur locked in a cell, the rage in his heart absolutely boiled. The phone rang again. It was his top enforcer. Where is she? Big Kev growled. Boss, we turned the city upside down, but she's nowhere. She just vanished, useless. Big Kev's fury exploded. He kicked a solid bronze coffee table clear across the room. Clang. The massive crash silenced the whole club. His eyes were red like a rabid beast. He roared into the phone, if you can't find her, then go jump in the river. Whoever touched my brother, I'll make their entire family disappear, while Big Kev was stirring up a storm. 3 black Mercedes sedans blew past all the barricades. Stopping arrogantly right at the police station's entrance, the doors swung open. 7 or 8 elite professionals in high-end suits stepped out. Their gazes were as sharp as eagles. Their very aura was so overwhelming the gate guards felt like they were suffocating. Leading them was a middle-aged man in gold-rimmed glasses, elegant, but his eyes were sharp as knives. Harvey Strong, the legal legend who gave judges migraines. He hadn't lost a single case since he started. People called him the legal Grim Reaper. Who are you? This is a police station. A young cop tried to block their path. Harvey didn't even give him a look. His female assistant slapped down a gold-plated lawyer's license and an authorization letter from Zenith Corporation. She lifted her chin, her voice ice cold. Chief counsel of the Empire's apex law firm, Harvey Strong. Hired by the chairwoman of Zenith Corporation, Madame Victoria Vance, to provide legal counsel for our client, Mr. Arthur Vance. By law, we have the right to meet with our client within 48 hours. Arrange it, now. My time is incredibly valuable. The young cop was stunned. The legal Grim Reaper, Harvey Strong, and the Empress of the business world, Victoria Vance. What kind of god-tier lineup was this? He scrambled inside to make his report. Soon, a stressed-out K.H. Frost walked out. Seeing Harvey's suffocating presence, her heart sank. She just knew no one was getting any sleep tonight. Mr. Strong, I've heard so much about you. Harvey cut right to the chase. Captain Frost, skip the pleasantries. Where is my client? I need to see him immediately. Is he under interrogation? When did it start? Is it being fully recorded? Are his rights protected? A rapid-fire barrage of professional questions left K.H. breathless. She had no choice but to concede. She knew she couldn't stop him. Follow me to the interview room. Harvey finally met Arthur. One glance in pure surprise flashed through Harvey's mind. The young man before him wore prison clothes and cuffs, but he sat there quietly, with his back perfectly straight. No despair, no panic, not the look of a man whose life was over. His relaxed demeanor was deeper than any billionaire tycoon Harvey had ever met. Is this the legendary useless playboy? Harvey suppressed his shock and sat down. Mr. Vance, hello. I am Harvey Strong, retained by Madame Victoria to serve as your legal representative. Arthur finally looked up, evaluating him. Not bad for his mother's choice. With a nod, Arthur thanked him. Appreciate the hard work. Harvey just opened his briefcase. He took out a recorder and a laptop. Mr. Vance, we don't have much time. My team ran a preliminary analysis, and the situation looks extremely bad. Witnesses, evidence, public opinion. The other side has you completely cornered. They've practically crucified you. I need you to tell me the absolute truth. Harvey was fully expecting to hear some spoiled brat make ridiculous excuses. But what Arthur said next completely shattered his expectations. He didn't cry foul, he didn't curse, he simply recounted the events with cold logic. Finally, he looked at Harvey and laid out some truly ruthless instructions. I'm in no rush to get out. Your job is to muddy the waters. Harvey was stunned. Muddy the waters. Arthur's lips curled into a cold smirk. Use what you do best. Attack their procedures. For example, why did reporters arrive before the police did, and why was there no immediate medical exam done? On the victim, hammer these points and don't let up. I want Deputy Chief Miller losing sleep for the next 48 hours, and just like that, Harvey's eyes lit up. Muddy the waters, relieve the siege by attacking their very foundation. This was not the thinking of a mere playboy. This was the mind of an absolute grandmaster. Then came Arthur's second command. File for an evidence preservation order, immediately. Demand the police provide all original, unedited footage within a 500-meter radius. Of the hotel, emphasize original. I suspect they tampered with key evidence. Harvey's gaze became incredibly serious. He had suspected the same thing. But for Arthur to point it out so precisely, it completely refreshed his entire perspective on the young master. Arthur leaned back, his tone laced with amusement. Third, leak some info to the media. Suggest this is a malicious frame-up by business rivals targeting the Zenith Corporation. This time, Harvey was truly speechless. Elevating a criminal case directly into the realm of corporate warfare. The move was nothing short of genius. It wouldn't just instantly divert the public's attention, it would expose the mastermind behind all this to the terrifying, overwhelming wrath of the Zenith Corporation. Looking at this young man casually weaving an inescapable net, Harvey felt a chill. This is no playboy. This is a flawless, calculating beast wearing a sheep's skin. After a long moment, Harvey finally recovered from the shock. He closed his laptop. He stood up abruptly and gave Arthur a slight, respectful bow. A sign of respect for a true powerhouse. Mr. Vance, he said, his eyes filled with a brand new kind of awe. You are nothing like the rumors. Rest assured, within 48 hours, you will walk out. The interview room door closed. Arthur was taken back to the chaotic cell 303, but this time, The welcome was a little different the moment the iron door swung open. All the inmates, including Craig and his freshly broken arm, stood up as one. They bowed their heads respectfully, barely daring to breathe automatically. Clearing a path directly to the top bunk, the king's seat, that reverence and fear, was now carved into their very bones. The two guards' eyes nearly popped out. They blinked, rubbing their eyes in disbelief. What the hell was this? Was this still the infamous Cell 303? It had only been a few hours. What in the world did young Master Vance do? Arthur didn't even glance at them. He went straight for the top bunk, sat down like a king, and closed his eyes. As if he was born to sit on a throne, deep in the night, snores echoed. Then at midnight, a faint metal scraping sound came from right outside the cell. The small food slot on the door was quietly being pushed open from the other side. A white-gloved hand slipped inside, placing a black rectangular object on the floor. And then it was gone, not a single wasted movement. But the second that hand left, Arthur, who seemed to be sound asleep, snapped his eyes open. They were bright, cold, and held no sleepiness, only a chilling alertness. He slid off the bed. He landed like a phantom cat, silent, and glided towards the door. Bending down, he picked up the black object, a brand new, untraceable custom phone. A smile touched Arthur's lips. That was fast. He knew without a doubt this was arranged by his all-powerful mother, Victoria. Harvey was just the public act. This phone, this was the real attack, the fatal blow from the shadows. He got back in bed, pulling the blanket over his head. The screen lit up, booting right into a single, heavily encrypted app. The moment it was on, the phone vibrated. A message was already there, one word and a code, Ghost Online. Arthur's eyes narrowed. Ghost, one of the top 3 hackers on the planet, a name that made global cybersecurity agencies turn pale. He was a cyber ghost who owed a favor to only one man. Shadow. Years back, when Ghost was being hunted worldwide, Shadow had saved him. To repay that debt, Ghost promised him 3 unconditional favors. Activating Nightingale had been the first one. Arthur's fingers flew across the screen. He typed out the second directive: Target, Metro City Skynet System. The task was to extract all CCTV footage from 10 to midnight at the Rich Garden Hotel. And he wanted it done in 10 minutes. This was Skynet, a super surveillance network the Empire had spent a fortune building, linking millions of cameras and military-grade servers. It was a supposedly impenetrable fortress, 10 minutes to hack it and pull raw data. Absolutely ridiculous, yet Arthur's expression was one of complete and total confidence. He knew there wasn't a network on Earth that Ghost couldn't crack wide open. And sure enough, less than 5 minutes later, the phone buzzed, a short reply from Ghost. Task complete. The data was packaged and sent to his encrypted inbox. Another message followed. An unknown data stream was detected in Skynet's backend about 30 minutes ago. It was trying to delete the hotel footage. Ghost asked for his instructions. Just as he expected, the mastermind was panicking, trying to destroy the evidence. What a shame the hacker they were so proud of wasn't even fit to carry Ghost's bags. Ghost's next messages came one after another, full of his usual confidence. Boss, I found traces of the deleted video. Piece of cake for me. Want me to restore it? Arthur replied, restore it. Package all the raw footage along with the alteration logs. Send it to me now. Buzz. A massive file package immediately started downloading. The speed was insane. The progress bar didn't fill, it sprinted. In just over 10 seconds, dozens of gigabytes of video had been downloaded. This was Ghost's real power. Arthur opened the package, heading straight for the video file that was marked altered. The video showed the hotel hallway. Stella Fox, in a sexy evening gown, was led by a waiter. She was brought to Arthur's door, but then she swiped a key card and opened the door herself. There was no struggle. She looked expectant, almost excited to be there. But the version given to the cops was cleverly spliced to make her look like she was forced inside. But it was hilariously pathetic next to Ghost's restored version. Every deletion, every altered timestamp was marked bright red, absolutely ironclad proof. Arthur's eyes flashed with a bone-chilling cold. Then, the second video, from a wicked angle. An office building right across the street. Just after Stella entered the room, several muscular men were seen sneaking into the hotel's back entrance, leading them. Brad Sterling's top enforcer, Rick, they were caught secretly talking to the hotel's security manager. Moments later, the staged reporters slipped right in through the staff entrance, with security turning a blind eye. This sealed it: collusion between the Sterling family and the hotel. Video after video. Every single one was a nail in the coffin, crucifying the Sterlings. How Stella got in. How Brad's men planted the reporters. Even how a corrupt police captain secretly met Deputy Chief Miller's driver just 30 minutes before. Ghost had violently dug up every last piece from the street cams. A massive web of lies and conspiracy was being torn to shreds right before Arthur's eyes. From start to finish, this whole thing was a grand play directed by the Sterlings. Lewis Miller provided the cover, the hotel set the stage, Stella played the lead. And he, Arthur, was the only one completely blindfolded. He chuckled darkly at the screen. No anger, no thrill of the hunt, just cold focus. He systematically categorized all the lethal evidence, encrypted the package, and then sent it through secure channels to two people, Harvey Strong and his mother, Victoria Vance. Mission accomplished. Just as he was about to wipe his tracks, his phone buzzed, a new message. It was from Ghost. Boss, had some free time, so I took a stroll through your enemy's computer. Then another message. Found something fun. Arthur's eyebrow raised. What Ghost called fun was never simple. He waited. And the next second a screenshot of an email popped up. Sender, Brad Sterling. Receiver, his father, Victor Sterling. The attachment was a presentation titled Feasibility Report on completely toppling the Vance family and controlling public opinion. And in this screenshot, one slide laid it all out. Phase 3, inside the detention center. Plan: create an accident to silence him permanently. Eliminate the root of the problem. Eliminate the root. What a nice little phrase. Murderous intent exploded in Arthur's eyes. If the first batch of evidence proved they framed him, this email was ironclad proof of attempted murder, a whole different ballgame. With this, he could bury the Sterling family for good, but before he could even save the screenshot, Ghost sent a third message. Perfect timing, boss. I hacked Brad's PC. Found the email where that father-son duo planned this. Want me to send it? No. Staring at that vicious email on the screen, the last trace of warmth in his eyes completely vanished, leaving only an Arctic death chill. Brad Sterling. The Sterling family actually dared to try and kill him. Very well. Ghost's incredible gift was the final piece of the puzzle. The entire conspiracy was now sealed. Every clue, every theory, perfectly aligned. He closed his eyes, letting the original owner's memories surface. But this time, he wasn't just passively receiving them. He searched through them like a master hacker, finding everything on the Sterling family and Brad, Metro City's nouveau rich, all flash, no substance. They had shallow roots but sky-high ambitions, planning to climb over the corpse of an old money family to rise. Unfortunately, the Vance family just became their target. A perfect stepping stone, and that sick ambition passed right down to their son, Brad. A guy who had been stuck to our hero's back like a fly. He was frantically jealous of everything he had, his background, his reputation. He even copied him, foolishly thinking it would make him superior. Our MC buys a Ferrari, Brad orders a pricier Bugatti. The next day, our guy throws a pool party. He spends double just to invite the very same people. A pathetic wannabe, convinced he was the real king of the city. Too bad every single one of his attempts was ruthlessly crushed by simple, brutal methods. Take the charity auction last week, where he fought tooth and nail for a limited Patek Philippe, draining his yearly allowance to bid $30 million. He thought he'd won. He was probably already writing his victory post. The result, our guy didn't even blink. He lazily raised his paddle, $1 billion, bought it, and in front of everyone, tossed it to a random starlet next to him like it was some cheap toy. It's shiny enough, matches my outfit. Okay, that's what you call absolute dominance, a deep charge destruction. From that moment on, the look in Brad's eyes wasn't just jealousy anymore. It was pure, venomous hatred. A towering hatred that wanted to swallow him whole, so that's how it was. The signs were there all along. He slowly opened his eyes, no more doubts. Only clarity and a chilling intent to kill. Motive, capability, plus the sheer stupidity of a mind completely clouded by hate. It all fit together perfectly. This whole trap was a clumsy little play by the Sterlings, both father and son. They actually believed they were the hunters, thinking the lion had finally fallen into their trap. How ridiculous! From the second he stepped foot in this cell, the roles of hunter and prey had been completely reversed. A cruel smile spread across his face. He saved the murder plot email and all the other evidence, encrypted it, and sent it out. Done, without a second of hesitation, he initiated the highest level of anti-tracking and wipe protocol on the phone. Code cascaded down the screen just like a waterfall, in 3 seconds flat. Every trace of his operations, all data sent and received, were physically wiped from existence. Not even the world's best hacker could recover a single byte, leave no trace. That is the absolute professionalism of a shadow. He pulled out the SIM card and wrapped the phone in the bed sheet. He then walked over to the scrawny inmate and simply tossed it back. The guy looked at the phone in his hands, then at our MC, completely paralyzed with fear. Finally, his survival instinct kicked in. He shakily took it, forcing a smile uglier than tears. "Boss, are you done with it?" Our hero just nodded, turned back to his bed and lay down. He closed his eyes, acting as if nothing ever happened. He was back to being the Empire's top playboy, just waiting out his 48 hours. But beneath that calm exterior, a murderous intent powerful enough to flip Metro City on its head was surging wildly. The Sterling family, very well, he hoped they were ready to face his wrath. The next morning, the first ray of sunlight pierced through the cell. He slowly opened his eyes. There was no grogginess, only the calmness of a deep, dark pool. He looked like he'd slept all night, but his brain had been running at maximum speed. He'd merged with his old memories and plotted a new path straight to the absolute top of this new life. And the starting point. Dealing with this tiny annoyance called the Sterling family. "Get up, all of you." A guard's rough shout echoed as a baton smashed against the iron bars. Clang. The inmates scrambled to their feet like startled birds. Moving 10 times faster than the day before, terrified of bothering the god resting on the top bunk, our protagonist ignored them, stretching his body. Bones popped and cracked. A faint flow of internal energy began to circulate through his limbs. Initial body tempering stage, he smirked. Who would have thought this useless playboy, he was forced by his family, to build a solid martial arts foundation. Sure, compared to the near grandmaster strength of his past life, this was nothing. A firefly's glow at best, but it was better than zero, enough for the moment. Then a faint vibration came from under his blanket. His eyes shifted. Without a single change in expression. He whipped the blanket away, grabbed the custom phone, and checked the caller ID, a triple encrypted number. A virtual number, he answered. Big Kev's anxious voice blasted out. "Arthur, how are you holding up in there? Those lowlifes didn't try anything, did they?" His voice was calm. "I'm fine, let's talk business." "Good, good." Big Kev let out a sigh, his relief instantly replaced by an excited boast. "Arthur, that woman, Stella Fox, the one you wanted us to find, we got her. Damn, he had his boys running ragged. That little snake Brad actually has a brain. He didn't hide her in the city, but at his private villa out in the suburbs, the middle of nowhere. If not for a guy who once did his renovations, they would have been totally fooled. What's the situation?" Arthur asked calmly. Big Kev let out a brutal, beast-like laugh. "Don't worry, Arthur. He handles things. Arthur just needs to relax. 50 of his best men have the villa surrounded. Locked down tight, not even a fly gets out of there. That Sterling punk thought his plan was perfect. He only left 7 or 8 guards there, barely an appetizer for the crew." Big Kev lowered his voice, his tone turning bloodthirsty. "Arthur, just say the word. Give the nod and my boys will storm the place, tie that woman up, break her legs, and dump those guards in the river to feed the fishes. Just give the order, Arthur, but he didn't answer right away. Silence hung over the line. Charge in, grab her, and get out. No, he knew that was the stupidest possible move. Stella Fox was the one and only key witness for this entire case. If they used violence, her testimony would be dismissed in court as coerced. That wouldn't just fail to clear his name, it would perfectly frame him for using the criminal underworld. That was the enemy's trap all along. Using brute force here, that's for amateurs. You have to use your head, use strategy. Force the enemy to swallow a bitter pill they can never spit out, and make Stella Fox willingly become his personal pawn. Arthur, you there? Big Kev's voice cut through his thoughts. I'm listening. He finally spoke, his voice calm yet absolute. Kev, pull your men back. Big Kev froze on the other end. What, pull back? But why, Arthur? This is our shot. His tone became heavy. I said, pull back. Big Kev was utterly confused, but out of blind faith in him, he gritted his teeth. Fine, you're the boss. I'll tell them to withdraw. Good, Arthur nodded, satisfied, as he began to reveal his real plan. His voice was light but sharp as a surgeon's scalpel. We can't touch Stella right now. She is Brad's trump card, but she's also his biggest liability. Rushing in ruins the entire game. He paused, the sharp wisdom of a hunter flashing in his eyes. Leave her there, just keep a close watch. Send me the address. I am going to make her walk out of that villa on her own and testify for me. 3 a.m. Inside the Major Crimes Unit office, the lights were still burning bright. Detective K.H. Lowe Frost, her eyes completely bloodshot, stared at a clip of CCTV footage. She had replayed this sub-1-minute clip hundreds of times already. The playback was smooth, the timestamps perfect, a completely normal recording. But her gut was screaming at her, wrong, something is wrong. This powerful intuition didn't just come from her years on the force. It came from Themodel. The man in the interrogation room was Arthur Vance. And the shock he delivered shattered her entire worldview. 22 years old, labeled a predator. Yet he had this terrifying composure. Not like a man whose life was over, but like a chess master coldly watching clowns on his board. Those 3 questions he asked were razor sharp, peeling back the perfect shell of the case to reveal its fatal flaws. That logic. That overwhelming aura. This was no playboy. Even top-tier corporate criminals couldn't compare. The gap between rumor and reality was just bizarre. Then the events that followed cranked her suspicions up to 11. Harvey Strong's arrival was like a god of law descending. His presence alone screamed absolute pressure from the top. Then his team filed a dozen motions in hours, sending the precinct's legal department into pure chaos. But even stranger was the media. Yesterday, reporters swarmed. Today, the entire internet was dead silent. Major outlets acted completely gagged. Total silence. If a heaven-tier power wasn't suppressing this, she'd eat her own badge. Arthur's composure, the lawyer, the media blackout. And the key witness, Stella, the victim, had vanished into thin air right after giving her statement. Does a traumatized victim just refuse police cooperation and play hide-and-seek? Is any of this normal? All these points merged into one theory that shook her to her very core. This whole case is a trap, a massive conspiracy targeting Arthur Vance. Stella Fox isn't a victim at all, she's the bait. Once that idea took hold, it was impossible to ignore. Chloe shot to her feet, a hunter's glint in her eyes. She knew she was on the right path, but just then, Deputy Chief Miller pressured her. He demanded she lock this down as an ironclad case. Immediately, Miller. He was the mole inside. Isolated, Chloe could only trust her own team. Everyone huddle up, she barked. Her subordinates gathered close. Captain. You found something. Chloe's eyes were sharp as blades, her voice deadly low. From now on, we're changing the entire investigation. Stop looking into Arthur Vance. We investigate Stella Fox. Her men were floored. Investigate the victim. Exactly, Chloe's eyes gleamed with a sharp intellect. Check her entire social circle. Call logs, bank records. I want to know who she contacted recently. Especially anyone from the business world. Yes, Captain. But as they turned to leave, the office door flew open with a bang. A young tech officer rushed in, sweating, his voice cracking with pure excitement. Captain, we tracked Stella's bank accounts. Just 3 days ago, she got an anonymous transfer of 5 million. They followed the trail. The money came from an overseas shell company. The young cop swallowed, shouting the name that would rock the room. The majority shareholder behind that shell company is the heir of the Sterling Group, Brad Sterling. Meanwhile, at the Sterling Villa, Brad was pacing nervously, sheer anxiety plastered across his handsome face. The grand play he directed had been running for 10 full hours, yet the internet was suspiciously silent. All the bot armies and press releases he'd unleashed had been completely scrubbed by an invisible hand. Brad wasn't an idiot. He knew instantly the Vance family had just made their move, a power from the abyss. An overwhelming pressure he couldn't fight. Just as his mind collapsed into chaos, a cold voice cut through the shadows. What is all this panic for? Brad's entire body went rigid. There on the sofa sat his father, the chairman, Victor Sterling. Dad, the news has been completely shut down. And Harvey Strong, the legal Grim Reaper himself, is now Arthur's lawyer. But Victor's expression was like stone. He just swirled the wine in his glass. I know, he said it as if he controlled every piece on the board. So what now? Brad was a complete wreck. Harvey Strong is a shark. What if he pries something out of Stella? He won't. Victor's voice was flat, absolute. I've already moved Stella to a place nobody can ever find. She won't see a single soul until this is all over. Brad relaxed slightly, but the worry didn't disappear. Still, the Vance family's influence is massive. I'm afraid this will drag on. This is why you are still too young. Victor finally looked up. His gaze hardened by a lifetime of corporate battles, ruthless beyond imagination. Brad, you must remember this. Our family has no retreat. Since we chose to rise on Arthur's corpse, we have to stomp him until there's nothing left. To get rid of a weed, you must rip out the roots. His words were quiet, but the temperature in the entire room dropped to freezing. Brad's pupils constricted. He knew what his father meant. Dad, are you saying, yes? Victor drained his wine, slowly rose, and then patted his son's shoulder. His bloodshot eyes flashed with pure venom. Accidents happen inside detention centers all the time. One more dead inmate with the name Vance is just another dead inmate. Our family can only sleep soundly with one less Vance. His father's words were like a demon's whisper. Ultimate greed and a sky-high hatred completely shattered what little fear Brad had left. His face twisted into pure madness. I understand now. I know exactly what to do. He spun around, unlocking a drawer and pulling out a black satellite phone. He dialed a number with shaking hands. The call connected. A hoarse voice answered. Hello. Brad fought to keep his own voice steady. It's me. I have a job for you. A low chuckle came from the other end. So the Sterling heir needs our help. Cut the nonsense. Just name your price. Brad's eyes glinted with malice as he spoke, word for word. Metro City Detention Center 1. West Block Cell 303, Arthur Vance. The other end went dead silent, clearly shocked by the name. After a long dozen seconds, the hoarse voice came back, now dead serious. Mr. Sterling, is this a joke? Touching that guy is like tearing a hole in the sky. Brad roared back, I'm not joking, I just want him dead. Any method will do. Silence again as the risk was calculated. Finally, the voice named an unbelievable price. 10 million with a 5 million deposit. And listen, we're only responsible for making it look like an accident. You handle all the fallout. Done. Brad agreed on the spot. 10 million to buy Arthur's life. What a total bargain. He hung up, a sick, twisted smile spreading across his face. Then he called the broker right back, his voice like a demon from the pits of hell. I want him to die by accident in there. Make sure it's clean, get it done, and you'll get your 10 million. Late at night, the detention center was deathly still. Clang, the iron door of cell 303 was slammed open. A figure was thrown violently inside. the guard's mocking voice echoed after him. "Here's a special delivery for you boys. Hit him hard. And remember to collect the body in the morning." The inmates, startled from their sleep, all woke up. But seeing the new arrival, they went completely silent. He was about 30 line, and his face was blank. But those eyes, they belonged to a killer, cold and dripping with venom. His gaze swept the room, and the so-called tough guys instinctively avoided his stare. Their animal instincts screamed a single warning. This guy is on another level of dangerous. But the newcomers gazed past them by, landing precisely on a figure supposedly asleep on the top bunk. His pupils narrowed. Killing intent flashed in his eyes. He had found his target, Arthur Vance. The $10 million bounty. A professional assassin with 3 lives on his ledger, code name, Viper, but Viper didn't move just yet. He found an unassuming corner, lined against the wall, and closed his eyes to fake sleep. Only he knew his muscles were coiled tight as a bowstring. Waiting for that perfect moment to strike when everyone's guard was at its lowest. 1:30 a.m., the hour of deepest sleep, now. Viper's eyes snapped open, a stone statue come to life. A vicious, primal excitement filled his gaze. He rose without a sound, as light as a phantom, like a ghost. He drifted to another inmate's bed and retrieved the weapon he had stashed. A toothbrush, its handle sharpened for months on concrete. The tip gleamed with a pale, lethal light, weapon in hand. A cold, cruel smile twisted Viper's lips. He glided toward Arthur's bed like a hunting leopard, watching the man's steady breathing, totally unaware of his own impending death. The famous playboy, the Vance heir, after tonight he would simply disappear. Viper's eyes exploded with murderous light, no more waiting. He raised the sharpened shank high, pouring all his explosive force into it. Aiming straight for the center of Arthur's rising and falling back. He drove it down, fast, precise, and vicious, tearing through the air, aimed right at his life. Viper could almost feel the exquisite spray of warm blood on his face. But right at the very last millisecond, just as the tip was about to break skin, an anomaly occurred. A hand that seemed to have been waiting there all along. With speed that defied physics, it shot out from under the blanket like lightning. And then, before Viper's disbelieving eyes, 2 slender fingers clamped down. Perfectly, unshakably gripping the lethal weapon, time seemed to freeze. The shank, driven with all of Viper's might, stopped dead in its tracks, less than a centimeter from Arthur's back. Even with his face flushed red, straining every muscle, Viper couldn't push it another millimeter. How is this possible? Viper's brain short-circuited. A bone-deep chill instantly flooded his senses. It felt like his weapon wasn't caught by fingers, but locked in a cold, industrial steel vise. He tried to pull back, but it was far too late. Just as his nerve shattered, his prey slowly turned over. Arthur didn't even bother to sit up. He just lay on his side, watching him leisurely. Then, under Viper's horrified gaze, Arthur opened his eyes. No sleepiness, no panic. Only the sheer amusement of watching a clown's performance. He looked at the assassin, frozen in place like a statue, and smiled. His tone was light, like chatting with an old friend. "With parlor tricks like these, you dared to come kill me." A casual voice, yet colder than the winds of hell. Viper's brain descended into absolute chaos. The scene unfolding before his eyes completely shattered his reality. This wasn't a man, this was a monster. 2 fingers, that was all it took. A monster that had him at death's door while lying down. A monster who just smiled as a lethal strike came for his life. Was this even human? Impossible. The killer instinct of a professional assassin took over, crushing the fear. Viper's eyes glowed red as a low, beastly growl escaped his throat. He violently twisted his trapped right hand, as his left hand became a deadly claw, slashing savagely right for Arthur's throat. He was going to tear this monster apart. But Arthur's grin only widened, now showing a clear hint of disappointment. He calmly uttered 2 words, too slow. As he said it, his fingers tightened on the shank. Crack, the tough plastic shattered like a cheap cookie. Viper's pupils shrank to tiny pinpricks. His left claw, still aimed at Arthur's throat, froze in place. 0. 0.1 seconds. In a battle between masters, 0.1 seconds is an eternity, and Arthur moved. Still lying down, he flicked his right hand up, fast, insanely fast. All Viper saw was a flash of white lightning. Then, a heart-stopping agony so intense his soul trembled, exploded from his left shoulder. Crack, another bone-chilling sound. Viper's attacking arm went completely limp, dangling at a totally unnatural angle. His entire shoulder joint had just been casually and brutally destroyed. A choked groan of pain escaped Viper's throat. It was the kind of pain that would knock a normal person out cold, but this was only the beginning. The moment Viper's balance broke from the pain, Arthur's other hand shot out like a ghost, grabbing his head and slamming it down. Thud. Viper's head was smashed violently into the iron bed frame. A sickening impact that made your teeth ache. Viper's vision went completely black as the world spun. He'd lost all ability to fight back. Arthur let him go, and Viper's body hit the floor like a sack of mud. The cell fell deathly quiet. All the inmates stared at the young man slowly sitting up, seeing a demon in his eyes. Their bodies were shaking uncontrollably. They didn't even dare to breathe, terrified of alerting this newly awakened Grim Reaper. Arthur stood up, his bare feet on the cold concrete. He walked slowly over to Viper, looking down at him like a scientist studying a lab rat. Then Arthur suddenly shook his head, clicking his tongue in disappointment. Too sloppy. He squatted down slowly, looking at the terrified Viper and speaking calmly, like a teacher to his student. Your breathing is chaotic. You have no idea how to hide your killing intent. Your stance is unstable, and your so-called one-hit kill move. It's like a 3-year-old swinging a stick full of openings. Every word was a sledgehammer smashing into Viper's ego, crushing what little pride he had left. Who are you? Viper pointed a trembling finger at the man, his voice shaking with absolute terror. But Arthur paid his horror no mind. He reached out, lightly tapping Viper's body, which was now soaked in a cold sweat. Once on his right knee, once on his lower back, here and here. 2 fatal weak points when you tried to use power. Arthur's voice remained calm. The moment you attack, if someone just hits these 2 spots, a cruel. Icy glint flashed in Arthur's eyes, his hands suddenly pressed down, crack, crack. 2 bone-shattering snaps, even more horrifying than before, echoed through the cell. Viper's right knee and his spine were both brutally shattered at the same time. It was Arthur's bizarre internal energy. This time, Viper couldn't block it. He unleashed a horrifying, inhuman scream that would give anyone nightmares for life. He was in a pain worse than death, completely crippled, and the guy who did this. The man responsible didn't even flinch. Nothing but endless despair remained. It swallowed Viper whole. He broke completely, writhing on the floor like a worm. His face was a mess of tears and snot, all viciousness gone from his eyes. Just pathetic begging remained. Demon, you're a demon. Kill me, please kill me. Arthur slowly stood up. He raised his foot, gently stepping on Viper's face. A face twisted by pain and the total loss of dignity, looking down at the trash. Arthur's voice was soft, like a merciful god and a ruthless tyrant combined. Tell me who sent you. I'll give you a chance to live. Arthur's voice was law. Those words ignited a spark, a desperate need for Viper to survive. He could live in a split second. Professional ethics went right out the window. He screamed hoarsely, Brad Sterling from Sterling Air, he gave me 10 million to stage an accident and kill you in here. Let me live. He spilled everything, yet Arthur's expression showed zero surprise. As if he knew it all along, he slowly took his foot away. Viper, thinking he was pardoned, crawled to Arthur's feet like a dog, rubbing frantically against his pant leg. Believing he had found his value, he yelled out his offer. I'm willing to get out and testify against Brad. I'll be your witness. I'll send him to prison, but Arthur just laughed, a sound full of cold disdain. Testify against him. He looked down at Viper like he was looking at an idiot. You think I need you to testify, to deal with garbage like him. You think I need to play with kids' toys like the law. That sentence froze Viper. His brain went blank. If he wasn't needed to testify, what value did he have left? As despair crashed over him, Arthur slowly squatted down again, like petting a dog. He patted Viper's cheek, whispering like a demon. Want to live? Viper nodded. Frantically, yes, more than anything. Very good. Arthur leaned in close to his ear, slowly laying out a brand new plan that made Viper's pupils shrink in terror. Listen carefully. Later, when the guards make their morning rounds, you scream. Scream as loud and as miserably as you can, then tell them you tried to ambush me last night, but I fought back and you were hurt in an accident. What? Viper was stunned. Wouldn't that just help Brad cover everything up? He didn't understand, but Arthur gave him no time to think. His fingers squeezed, crushing the crippled joints. White-hot pain swallowed Viper's sanity. I only say things once, the icy voice rang in his ears. When you get out, tell Brad. Your mission failed because I was prepared, and my strength is far beyond his. Imagination, understand, tortured nearly senseless, Viper could only nod. He nodded wildly. He didn't dare misunderstand. He knew if he even hesitated, his head would pop like a watermelon. Very good. Arthur let go, satisfied. He looked down at the completely shattered man, cowering at his feet. So why did Arthur do all this? The reason was simple. He wasn't just after prison time. That was too cheap for Brad. No, Arthur wanted fear. He wanted Brad to live every day in the endless dread of his failed assassination. He wanted this pawn, Viper, to become a living sword hanging right over Brad's head, always ready to fall. First, break him psychologically. Then use the most brutal, spectacular method to wipe the Sterling family from this world. That was the Shadow's style. Soon, morning came. As footsteps approached the cell, Viper took a deep breath, using the acting skills of a lifetime for a sky-tearing scream. Ah, my arm, my leg. The iron door flew open. Guards rushed in with batons, looking murderous. What the hell are you screaming about so early? But they froze. The cell was a disaster. They just stood there, rooted to the spot, as if they'd seen a ghost. The new guy, Viper, was a mess on the floor. His limbs were twisted at horrific angles, like a broken doll put back together all wrong. But on the other side, Arthur, the guy they thought would be dead, was sitting calmly on his bed, fixing his uniform like none of this had anything to do with him. The lead guard stared at this impossible scene, his voice trembling. What in the hell happened in here? Just then, Baldy Craig scrambled over, pointing an accusing finger at Viper. Officer, this new guy didn't know his place. He tried to ambush Master Vance last night and got counterattacked in the process. What? The guards sucked in a cold breath. They looked at Arthur, their mockery gone, replaced by pure, boundless terror. A monster. This man was an absolute monster. In the end, they didn't dare say a word to him. They just dragged the screaming Viper out. As he was hauled through the door, Viper struggled to turn his head. He gave one last, deep look at the godlike man. No hate, just awe, and the kind of terror reserved for a deity. Meanwhile, at the Sterling villa, Brad paced like a caged animal, his eyes bloodshot, waiting for the incredible news that would change everything. He could already see the headlines. Arthur Vance dead in a sudden accident. A sick, twisted smile spread across his face, and then it rang. The black satellite phone on his nightstand screamed to life, finally. Brad's heart hammered. He lunged for it like a starved wolf, his voice shaking. Is it done? But the voice that answered wasn't excited. It was panicked. Mr. Sterling, there's been a change. Something went wrong. Brad's smile froze. A terrible feeling washed over him. Changed? What went wrong? The mission failed. The broker's voice was almost a sob. Our guy. He messed up. Not only did he fail to kill Arthur, he was crippled by him. What? The words hit Brad like a lightning strike. He stood frozen, his mind blank. Failed? How could he possibly fail? Viper, a nationally wanted killer, against some useless playboy. How useless, all of you are useless. The shock turned instantly to pure rage. Brad snatched a crystal ashtray and hurled it against the wall. It shattered. I paid you 10 million to kill a piece of trash and you're telling me you failed. The broker stammered. Mr. Sterling, calm down. It wasn't our fault, Viper himself said it. Arthur is not a playboy. He is not a playboy. He's a monster, a hidden, peerless master, a master, Brad nearly laughed. Are you reading me a fantasy novel? Arthur, a master. If he's a master, I'm the Jade Emperor, but no matter how much he raged, a failure was a failure. His perfect plan had completely gone up in smoke. And just as his mind was in chaos, even more terrifying news arrived. Bang, the bedroom door was slammed open. The butler crawled inside, a look of pure doomsday panic etched on his face. Young master, bad news. Our company stock, it's crashing. What? Brad felt like he'd been struck by lightning. He shoved the butler out of the way and rushed to the living room. On the giant screen, the scrolling numbers were impossible to ignore. Hit by malicious short-selling from Zenith Corporation, Sterling Group's stock hit rock bottom at the opening bell. 50 billion in market value just vanished overnight. At the exact same time, his private phone began ringing non-stop, call after call from his directors. Mr. Sterling, all our deals with Zenith are canceled. Mr. Sterling, the banks are demanding we repay our loans immediately. Our top suppliers just stopped all shipments. They said Zenith gave the order. Each piece of devastating news hammered down on Brad's mind. He knew this was the Vance family getting their revenge. This was the thunderous fury of the business empress herself, Victoria Vance. A destructive storm had descended upon his company. At that moment, his father, Victor Sterling, walked slowly down the stairs, his face as cold as ice. He didn't look at the TV, only at his son with freezing disappointment. Slap. A crisp sound echoed. The blow hit Brad so hard he staggered back, almost falling. Dad. He clutched his swollen cheek, his eyes filled with absolute disbelief. It was the very first time in his life he had ever been struck. Useless trash, Victor stared at him, trembling with uncontrollable rage. I told you when you do something, you rip it out by the roots. Now you've only startled the snake, and you dragged our entire family into a bottomless pit. Refusing to accept his father's words, the company's ruin. And his own failure, Brad's sanity finally snapped under all the pressure. His eyes went completely bloodshot. Only pure madness and obsession were left on his face. Write the key, there's only one key I have left to play, Stella Fox. As long as he made sure she kept her mouth shut. As long as she stuck to the story that Arthur assaulted her, he still had a chance to win. Dad. Brad snapped his head up, glaring at his father with the eyes of a cornered beast. The very next second, he grabbed his car keys and bolted out the door, roaring like a madman as he ran. I can't wait anymore. I have to see Stella myself. I'll make damn sure she keeps her mouth shut. Outside the tightly guarded Metro City precinct, dozens of media outlets had turned the entire street into an absolute battlefield. Just half an hour ago, the legal Grim Reaper, Harvey Strong, had abruptly announced a press conference about the Arthur Vance assault case. You see, it had been over 24 hours since the incident. In that time, both the Vance family and the police force had stayed completely silent. This eerie quiet made the media smell something big was about to drop. But now Arthur's lawyer was making the first move. This was definitely a signal. A signal that the real counterattack was about to begin. As the reporters waited anxiously, a shout erupted from the crowd. He's here, Lawyer Strong is here. In an instant, every single camera turned to face the same direction. A car's presence slowly rolled to a stop right before the precinct. Doors opened. Harvey Strong in a crisp suit stepped out, flanked by his elite team. The gaze behind his gold-rimmed glasses was absolutely suffocating. Click, click, click. Blinding flashes of light swallowed him whole. Lawyer Strong, is Arthur Vance innocent? Did the Vance family pressure you? Countless sharp, trap-filled questions crashed down. But Harvey just wore his trademark smile. he gently pressed his hands down. A simple gesture, sure, but it carried an irresistible kind of magic. It instantly silenced the boiling, almost out-of-control scene. All the reporters instinctively shut their mouths. He cleared his throat and approached the microphone. His magnetic voice was broadcast live across the entire web. Friends from the media. Good morning, I am Harvey Strong, Arthur Vance's legal representative. I know you all have many questions. A knife-like sharpness flashed in Harvey's eyes. But before I answer your doubts, I'd like to invite you all to watch a video. As he spoke, an assistant plugged a USB stick into a projector. The next second, a massive high-definition image was projected right onto the building. Onto the precinct's solemn white wall, the image, the all-too-familiar hotel. Hallway from the case, the timestamp showed it was 10 minutes before the incident. Before police arrived on that fateful night, murmurs of confusion spread through the reporters. But the next second, when they saw the content, their expressions froze. That confusion was replaced by a deep, soul-shaking shock in the video. A group of their very own colleagues, reporters lugging cameras, were seen. They were sneaking in through the staff entrance, with security guards covering them. They didn't knock, they didn't say a word. Like trained hunters, they quietly set an ambush at the end of the hallway, as if waiting for a signal. And the final scene of the video made the whole place absolutely explode. When the police rushed out of the elevator, the captain leading them exchanged a look. A knowing glance with the leader of the reporters. The scene just imploded. All the reporters were struck dumb, as if by a bolt of lightning. What did this mean? It meant that before the police even received a report, before the assault happened, the media was already lying in wait. This wasn't news coverage. This was a setup. Part of a perfectly rehearsed trap. In an instant, public opinion completely reversed. Everyone's focus shifted to a far more terrifying topic. This wasn't some simple criminal case. This was a conspiracy targeting Arthur Vance. A flawless frame-up. Harvey watched the chaos, a victorious smile on his face. He knew this was just the appetizer. He still held the most lethal evidence. Evidence Arthur had provided. He decided to add a little fuel to the fire. Right on cue, a prearranged reporter raised his microphone with a look of shock. With pure indignation, he threw out the one question that would rock Metro City. Lawyer Strong, are you implying? That single question blew the roof off the place. Meanwhile, in the deputy chief's office, on the 5th floor of the very same precinct. Smash, a priceless teacup was hurled violently at a live stream monitor. Boiling tea dripped down the shattered screen from a now trembling hand. Deputy Chief Lewis Miller's eyes were bloodshot, staring at the calm Harvey. Strong on the screen, his face a furious purple, heavy, panting breaths. Escaped his throat. It's over. It's all over. He never dreamed the Vance family. He never expected the family's counterattack to be so fast, so vicious. They didn't just break the rules, they flipped the entire table over. And they were dragging the police right down with them. Looking at the reporters on screen, seeing the flood of angry comments online, Louis felt his world start to go dark. A bone-deep chill shot up his spine. He knew he'd kicked a massive hornet's nest. And just then, as his terror peaked, the encrypted red phone on his desk rang. The ringtone was as sharp as a nail in a coffin. Louis flinched. He stared at the flashing red light like it was a direct summons from the Grim Reaper. He knew exactly who was calling, and he knew what he was about to face. His hand trembled, hesitating for an eternity before he finally answered the call. In total resignation, he spoke. "Hello, Secretary Lai." His voice was weak, servile. But what he got back wasn't comfort. It was a roar of pure thunder. Louis Miller, the voice on the other end, was filled with a rage that could tear his soul apart. "Are you an absolute moron? Look at the mess you've made. The whole world is laughing at the Metro Police, police colluding with the media. Convicting a man before his trial. Louis, are you tired of being deputy chief?" "Secretary Lee, please, just let me explain," Louis stammered, his mind reeling. He was scared witless, trying to defend himself. I don't want to hear any of it. I'm giving you 24 hours. You either control this storm, or you make this case so ironclad that nobody can ever poke a hole in it. Otherwise, pack your bags and go home. Click, the line went dead. Only a cold dial tone remained. Louis collapsed into his chair, soaked in a cold sweat. An ironclad case, quell the storm, easy words to say, but now things were different. The other side had all the evidence. Even the key witness, Stella Fox, was on their side. This entire case was rotten from the very beginning. Making it ironclad was impossible. This was mission impossible, but in his despair, Louis remembered his last hope. His last straw, the Sterling family, right, they were the ones who orchestrated this. They had to give him a way out of this. He frantically grabbed his phone. He dialed the number he knew by heart, Victor Sterling. It rang for a long, long time. Then it connected. Victor's calm voice came through. "Louis, what's the matter?" That calm tone, as if he had nothing to do with this, ignited all of Louis's rage. All his panic exploded. "Victor Sterling," Louis practically roared. "Are you playing dumb with me? Everything has gone completely to hell, don't you get it? Harvey Strong sold us all out. I just got a death sentence from the top. We're finished." But faced with Louis's total hysteria, Victor just let out a soft chuckle. "Louis, you're too tense. The sky isn't falling. The sky isn't falling." Louis almost lost his mind with anger. "The fire is burning my eyebrows, and you tell me not to worry. Your son started this. You need to be the one to clean this mess up for me." The other end of the line went completely silent. The quiet made Louis's heart sink. After a long moment, Victor's freezing, emotionless voice finally cut through. It was a voice filled with the contempt a superior has for a disposable pawn. "Deputy Chief, don't talk nonsense. What does my son have to do with anything? I don't understand. Arresting people is police business. What does that have to do with the Sterling family? This is your mess. You clean it up." Before Louis could say another word, Victor hung up. The line went dead. Beep, beep, the line went dead. Louis froze, motionless like a statue. It took a full minute for the reality to sink in. He'd just been cast aside. Coldly abandoned by the Sterlings, the pure rage of betrayal and sheer terror. Of falling into that abyss completely devoured his reason. The manic look of a desperate gambler flashed across his face, an abandoned pawn. "You think you can just leave me to take the fall? Not a chance. You crossed the line, so don't blame me for being ruthless." He slammed his fist down. His eyes bloodshot and burning with a savage light. He had to save himself. The only way was to force a confession out of Arthur Vance, the center of the storm. And he had to do it using the fastest, most brutal methods available. Once he confessed, the case was set. Lawyer Strong would be completely powerless. With his mind made up, Louis smashed the intercom button, roaring at his subordinate. "Get the car ready. I'm going to see that little brat myself." The freezing interrogation room, same place, but a whole different person. The female detective was gone, replaced by the beer-bellied, thug-faced deputy chief, Louis Miller. Bang, the second he entered, he slammed a thick file down on the table. A thunderous crack meant to completely crush Arthur's spirit. He sat down, all aggression. His bloodshot eyes glaring daggers at Arthur. "Arthur Vance," he ground the name out. His voice was like a poisoned blade, but he was facing down textbook intimidation tactics. Arthur's expression didn't even ripple. He actually smiled warmly at Louis. As if he were greeting an old friend, not his mortal enemy, Deputy Chief Miller. Arthur took the lead. "Why so angry? Didn't you sleep well last night?" That lighthearted mockery instantly popped Louis's balloon of carefully built-up rage. "Don't you dare smile at me," Louis screeched like a cat whose tail got stomped. Slamming the table again, "Let me tell you, don't think getting some fancy lawyer and holding a press conference can turn wrong into right. I'm making it clear. Right here today, we have the witness and the evidence. Everything is ready."